Hello and welcome, members of the Wandaverse. I'm Hannah.
And I'm producer Nick.
And you're listening to episode 29 of Into the Wandaverse. That's right, we are almost at our 30th episode of All Things Scarlet Witch and Friends.
That's quite amazing. We nearly got to 30, isn't it?
It is, and technically, because I forgot to upload that one episode and we had to do it as a bonus episode, we have actually recorded, and plus we have the interviews we recorded. So there are technically like 30 episodes in existence, but we're going to celebrate our 30th episode next week. But,
Yeah.
you know, the deep lore is that there's, if you've been here since the magic was written, then you would know.
You would know that
we're messy on this show.
You would know that the number that's presented is not the number that exists.
No, every week when Nick sends me the file, I know that he's a week ahead of me and that I'm going to post it like it's the week below because he counts the bonus episode because he edited it. I just didn't upload it because I forgot about it.
Yeah,
I was on holiday.
Yeah, that's how organized we are here on this show.
We're a really professional podcast who do professional podcast things.
Yeah, like get interviews with people who you will hear at some point in the future.
Promise. So it's been a little bit of a slow-ish news week, but if you are a Wanda merch collector, we have had the news that the Marvel Doorables have hit Walmart. It does seem to be a slower rollout, so don't worry if you can't immediately find them in your Walmart. I have so many people messaging me like, they're not in my Walmart. Don't worry, it just seems to be a slower rollout. They'll show up at some point. They are $12 per capsule, and they Wanda is of course an ultra rare. There are codes, however, that you could look up. And she comes in a box with Bucky. Now, come on now.
So you're very happy about that.
Now, come on now. This was meant for me. Like, come on. And of course, we got a Wonder Man teaser this week.
Which looks good.
I'm so excited. I'm gonna be insufferable the day that first trailer drops because I have been standing Simon for so long now. Somebody on Twitter was like, every time Hannah mentions Wanda Simon, I like celebrate. And just know that I am with you. I am a Wanda Simon, and that episode, I heard the requests. We will get Nick on board, but this was not Nick's best introduction to Simon. We're talking about ForceWorks this week. We'll be talking about the first half of the ForceWorks run this week and then the second half next week.
So that is issues 1 to 11 this week and issues 12 to 22 next week.
It's going to be full spoilers because this came out like before most of y'all were born. So, like...
Except me, yeah.
Yeah. The first issue came out before I was born, It's 30 years old. Like, let's to it, girlies. So if you want to come back, you want to read the issues, come back and with us, or you want us to sit and then you're going to read it after, whatever, but this is a spoiler-free podcast.
No, it is not.
And building up to Wonder Man and Marvel Zombies and, the projects that are coming out, we will try to pick, things that are relevant to the other things we're talking about. So we're going to talk about the Fantastic Four in a few, like right before Fantastic Four come out. We're going to try and make things relevant. The geopolitical climate of the time. Yeah. We have both now seen all of Ironheart.
Yes. I got a very stern talking to, which was good. I need to watch it. So I did. But you spoke about the first 3 episodes last time. Did you want to give them listeners the roundup of your the part 2?
I'm gonna stand by what I said last time in that I think this should have been split into 3 parts. I think that thematically, the first 2 episodes, the second 2 episodes, and then the third and final episodes make sense as 2 parts each week.
Okay.
I stand by that thematically, but I think that this is one of the MCU shows that most justifies the second season because I feel like this set story arc. This was a proper. It was what's it called when you go back? It was it was an origin story, but we'd obviously already met Riri, and I think this did the best job in a long time of being an actual origin story and kind of showing what her motivations are, where she comes from, but also blending both the magic and technological sides of the MCU together in a way that I felt was satisfying. I really enjoyed the heist elements of the show, and then I really enjoyed the magic elements of the show. I think that it was I was so happy to see the end of nanotechnology, to see this suit coming together in a real and physical way. And I enjoyed, like, this show was obviously kind of hinting at a Strange Academy type show with the magic in the last couple of episodes. And I was fascinated by the characters that we were presented with, and I was genuinely shocked by the ending. I like to be a fly on the wall in the Brave New World script room, because obviously we've now found out that Zeke was supposed to appear originally in Brave New World first, which makes sense. I did like his kind of little sob story at the beginning, especially him just having Obadiah's ashes. I've just been rewatching Iron Man, so it was really like almost jarring to then have it come up for the first time. Do you know that Obadiah Stane is technically the first thirst trap ever in the MCU? He's the first man to appear shirtless.
Oh wow. I mean
Hmm.
Jeff Bridges can get it, so yeah, so why not?
Literally, me and Rhiannon were watching the movie, and she goes, "Why is Obadiah looking like that?" Because he like FaceTimes Tony like shirtless, and we're like, "What is the need for this?" Who was asking?
John Favreau knows what the people wanted in 2008, and that was shirtless Jeff Bridges.
He appears shirtless before Robert Downey Jr. does, which
Well, you got to have your main course before you have the starter, so that makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, obviously, if you're going chronologically, Steve Rogers is the first thirst trap. But if you are, and I'm just not counting Incredible Hulk because it's not the same gig. Like Obadiah Stane is the original MCU thirst trap, and I'm standing by that. What did you think, Nick?
The first off, I got a quick question. You're saying Ironheart is probably the most MCU show to warrant a second season. Is that including Moon Knight?
Moon Knight's the only other one that I struck like that one. I would say they're equal. I would say that this one set up a more straightforward question to be answered. Moon Knight obviously had the Jake Lockley reveal, which I think that warrants exploring in another project. But I would have taken exploring that in a movie, Falcon and the Winter Soldier style. I could see that moving to a different medium in order to answer that question. Whereas I feel like any answer to the Ironheart questions that aren't within an Ironheart story would feel disingenuous.
Okay. So I don't want to go into I don't want to go into spoilers. So you didn't do spoilers last time, did you? So I don't want to talk about spoilers because just in case people haven't got around to watching it for whatever reason, but spoiler-free thoughts, I think it's a well worth watching show. I've kind of just been really, really quite more miss than hit with the MCU shows. I think the last one I generally caught as it was coming out was Moon Knight.
It
Um,
wasn't, it was Agatha all along
it was
because
Agatha all along. Yeah, see that my memory. There's so many of them that I'm struggling. I struggle. So I I'm a th I so I'm of the opinion that I really really enjoyed the way the show kind of developed from introducing us to Riri and having like the technological side of things, and then bringing in this kind of magical side of things, and the very much like the relationship between the two. I liked how the show tackled grief in a really interesting
hmm.
way, and tackled kind of like trauma in an interesting way. Um, it's not
Why
that
do
it's
all
not.
the best MCU shows just about grief and trauma?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not doing anything groundbreaking. If we're talking like the best show to do trauma, like my MCU show to do trauma, then it's Jessica Jones. Um, and I think in terms of like the MCU shows where it kind of stands, it's certainly up on the higher end of where they are. Um, I'm. I'm really wanting a second season, like the reveal kind of at the end and the casting, which was all is everyone knows it's out there, but I'm not going to say it. Um, it's kind of like, oh, that makes sense.
As of
Like,
next week, we're going to talk about that cast the ending of Ironheart because I think it's very relevant to where we're going future in the MCU. So you
Okay.
have this week to I mean I'm pretty sure most of my audience I made videos about the ending. But like go and watch it, come back, but because next week we're talking about where this might go next in terms of the MCU. So that this is your warning.
No, that's your warning. That's your warning from Hannah.
I'm not holding
Um,
back.
Not holding back. Yeah, so I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the show Ironheart. I thought it was very, very well directed. I thought the casting was very, very good. Dominic Thorne was really great. And I really dug what's his name? The guy that played
Anthony
uh
Ramos or
Anthony, yeah, it's Anthony, yeah, Anthony Ramos. So I was a fan. He popped up. He was in Twisters, which was like my first proper kind of
not
exposure.
Hamilton.
No, I didn't see Hamilton. He's also apparently in Godzilla King of the Monsters, but I don't remember him in that. So in Twisters, he was in, you know, future super. He's with future Superman David Coruscant. Um, Working with him. I really enjoyed his character, and I really thought, you know, the way we saw this guy just really kind of get into, you know, spiraling the way he was really great throughout. And then Alden Ehrenreich,
Just
I
deserves the world.
yeah, I love him.
I love him so much, and I
I
have
love.
since Solo.
I mean, yeah, I've loved him. I've loved him since Hail Caesar. Like his scene, like he completely owns that movie, and that's the movie that's got Channing Tatum like doing tap dancing. Um,
Something
and
cinematic that I wanted to talk about from Ironheart is how good the title cards were for every episode.
it reminds, what did it remind me of? There is another MCU show that did something similar.
WandaVision.
One Division did something similar, yeah. Very creative. That's it. It reminds me of Atlanta. Atlanta did the same sort of thing where it kind of brought in the title cards into like the world of the show,
Hmm.
in a way that felt really, really natural. Yeah, like I think the cinematography was really cool at times, and like it's really great to kind of have a physical iron suit instead of like the nanotech, which is just so boring.
It
Um,
makes me so sad that I don't think we'll get to. I would love to see Riri interact with Peter Parker. I think they would have such great energy together, and it makes me a little bit bummed that we won't see
yeah,
them. I'm
Sony being
really
Sony.
hoping that when they get um that when we do get Speed in the MCU that he has the same kind of personality from the comics. I think he would play really well against Riri in terms of his like bounciness. I think that she is a great. They moved the apparently this is apparently they moved the timeline around, which is why Kamala and Kate didn't show up to recruit Riri for the Young Avengers. But I also don't think that with the tone and the way the show ended, I kind of get why they would choose not to do that. Because I feel like this show, she really owned it. I really feel like while this was obviously set very firmly within a universe, within character concepts that we're familiar with, I feel like this show justified its existence in that she she owned Chicago, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And like the cast of characters that we like, it's so again, having just watched Iron Man, it was kind of so interesting to obviously see a stain back in the picture. It felt like we were giving a legacy character a chance to be a legacy character in the way that I think that they've so far not done the best job with Sam Wilson. In that I love him and I think that he deserves the same kind of treatment as Steve Rogers.
Okay.
Um, but I think we'd probably better get onto the Force Works.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll talk about for spoilers next week, I guess, on
Yeah.
Lionheart, just because we you've got a few more things to kind of touch on. But yeah, no, let's get into Forceworks. Issues 1 to 11.
Yeah. So Force Works came out in July of 1994 and was written by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning. Tom Tenney was the original artist on the first, I think, the issues that we're going to talk about this week. And obviously, it was produced alongside the Iron Man TV show, but they are not the same. You heard us talk about that a lot recently. And I gotta say, like the characters might be roughly the same cast, but we are not dealing with the same people in terms of their characterization.
So we've got so the aforementioned Tom Tenney. He did the first five issues of
Oh,
Force
okay.
Works, and then six through to 11, which is what I've got up at the moment, 'cause that's what we're talking about. Is Dave Taylor, and Jim Calafiore are the other two. So we'll get into the art in a minute. But where do we start? Because we talked a little bit about Wonder Man at the beginning, Simon Williams, and like you've been bigging him up to me, and I'm like really looking forward to kind of getting stuck into him being part of a team. And um, issue one, uh, he's part of a team,
Yeah,
but
so slightly different from the cartoon, the team that we are set up with. So basically, we're starting out this issue, and if you don't know, previously to this issue beginning, the West Coast Avengers basically got shut down by the main Avengers, because they were like, you guys are ineffective and you suck. And uh basically we're closing it down was the and so Tony is like really not happy about that. And he is basically say he they basically the West Coast Avengers decided to have this vote about whether or not they would continue to exist without the support of the East Coast Avengers, the main guys. Um and Tony had actually voted against it. And then he comes around, he's like, I voted against it because I want to form a different team called the ForceWorks team. Um and their specialism is supposed to be with it's basically the exact opposite of everything Tony is against in Civil War, because he's like, it's basically we're gonna try and stop events before they happen. We're gonna go after galactic threats, and we're gonna be an active team. We're not gonna respond to threats, we're gonna be the threat. Is like his psychology. um And basically, the comic starts with Tony trying to gather this team together. I just want to say, right, if Tony is withdrawing from the Avengers, who is funding it? Like the main Avengers, who is funding it if Tony is not? Because like literally, it's been since the very beginning, it's been Tony's money funding the Avengers. So who's paying for it now if Tony is paying for ForceWorks instead?
I mean it's the 90s, so I don't know, was Shield a big part of it? The
Um,
Avengers?
I mean, not really. You've got like Natasha and Vision on the team. Neither of them got money.
No, Cap ain't got money.
So I just what because and then one of the funniest things I think about this issue is like Tony is like trying to call this meeting, and he's super concerned that US agent, so it's not Hawkeye in this. We are talking about, they call him Jack, but we are talking about John Walker from uh Thunderbolts. The team that he tries to assemble is the Scarlet Witch, and then Spider Woman, Wonder Man, and then US agent John Walker. And Tony like gets them to this new building. Well, it's their old building for the West Coast Avengers, and he's like, there should still be power in the control room. They're in this defunct building, and Tony is really concerned why U.S. agent hasn't put on his costume. And I'm like, is it relevant? Like, is it really relevant, Tony? If they have a meeting in costume or not? But it is very um important to him personally. And there's like a panel, which is one of my favorite from this first issue, where US agent is in the middle, and then Julia and Wanda just take a moment to just serve face. They're just both the posing that goes on in this artwork is pretty incredible.
It's yeah, it's the artwork in general I think is pretty it's interesting. At times it's really, really, really well done, but other times you get these kind of close up of faces, particularly the faces, to be honest, and it just doesn't quite work. Um, doesn't quite work. The it's very, very 90s in its aesthetic.
Hmm.
Like this first issue in particular, comparing this issue one from 1994 to the one that came out in 1998, there is a significant difference.
Hmm.
And it is like this is like 90s comic book art as I'd ever seen it. And
They spend a lot of time aura farming.
there's lot,
So,
yeah.
and so Tony is like, basically, I want to do this team, and then he is like, Wanda, I want you to be the leader. I want you to lead the team. And he tries to kind of seduce all them into the team in different ways. He takes Julia to this like little apartment that he's built for her and her daughter Rachel, and there's like an Iron Man plush in there. He's like, look, you could raise your kid here. We have health benefits. It's kind of the vibe, and they have this highly sophisticated building um, in Ventura known as the Works, which is run by a Plato artificial intelligence. So we're not dealing with Jarvis from the MCU here. It's like a Jarvis thing, but it's called Plato. And there's also this special Hex mainframe computer. Everything is like named after Wanda because they have a Hexcraft and a Hex mainframe computer that works with Wanda's power because this is her probability Hex powers rather than chaos magic. It's it like works with her powers so that they could predict um where they would be most needed rather than reacting to like a call than an alarm is kind of how it's supposed to work. So Wanda agrees to be the leader of the team. US agent like isn't sure if he's going to join. Wonder Man is just on board. He's like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it. And Julia is bought in by health benefits. And you know what? She's a working mother. She's got to go with it. And then like immediately um in the background, there's been like panels about how Kree soldiers are coming to Earth, basically, and they want to come after Wonder Man and the Vision. I didn't reread the Avengers issues that go along with this because it was just too many, but I think that this plotline was happening simultaneously in both comics, as I understand it.
That kind of happened throughout the run, though, doesn't it? There's quite a
Hmm.
lot of references to other issues kind of going on, and I mean that was a big problem in my opinion with the '90s runs was that you're trying to read this self-included run, and it's like read this, read that, read this, read that, and it's like there's no conclusion to any of the stories. It just kind of peter out if you're just focusing on these particular runs. But yeah, no, it's one that these Kree soldiers come down. There's a character called the Recorder, and him and Wonder Man kind of got talking because Wonder Man ends up in space. Then Wanda does something with her hex probability powers, and basically creates a guy called Sentry, who we know from the animated show. And then Wonder Man's in space and basically explodes.
It's so funny because right before this, the most Simon thing that could possibly happen is he goes, I'm basically immortal, and then he blows up.
Yeah.
Which is the most Simon plotline to ever exist. And I love him for that. Like, Mans was like, I think I'm pretty much functionally immortal, blows up. And I just think that that's funny. I think that that is girl fail, and I love it for him. Also, the writers clearly not being sure what they were going to do with love interest in this comic because Wanda and Simon greet each other like romantically to begin with, and then other things happen.
Yeah.
Because there's also like romantic tension, sort of. There's some weird flirting between her and US agent as well.
I think the US agent one isn't really flirting. I think that's more like long-time friends and respect for each other. Like that, I think that's kind of where they're kind of going to go with it. They're trying to go with it, in my opinion.
So while Wonder Man is exploding in space, they go to the ruined Avengers compound, and I just need to say, Nat, I cannot take you seriously with that headband on. Like, please return to standing on business and get that thing off your head. Like the headband just it's not Black Widow core. Please, I never want to see it again. And then literally US Agent's entire personality in the first like six issues is just being suspicious of everything. Like that's his gig. He's just suspicious. Iron Man is so, well, Tony is so upset because he's like, basically, I just formed this team and immediately murdered Simon.
Yeah.
He is um And then and his team all gets kidnapped. Well, everyone except him and Sentry get kidnapped by this evil scatter, which is a threat that Sentry is like, oh, there's this thing called the scatter, and so they have to go to an alien dimension to go and save the ForceWorks team. Again, there's a lot of interesting concepts in here. It is quite hard to it's very fast paced, especially these first two, three
The
issues.
first the first three issues deal with the scatter, yeah. And it doesn't come up again. Um, really in a kind of like this run. The next arc does come up again.
Hmm.
But this first kind of scatter arc doesn't come up again. Especially seeing as like it's kind of revealed that Sentry is like meant to be the leader of them and has lost his memory and that's not actually brought up again.
No,
Um,
him having memory loss happens a bunch, but this specific incident is not.
I can't remember if it's one of these. I know in one of these first few issues, there is a panel of Sentry watching Beavis and Butthead, which is like,
Yes, I think it's in the third one. They kind of
yeah,
show them all. One thing that ForceWorks is particularly committed to is their merch. They are wearing merch. Um, I don't know where it got made, but Julia issue 3 is immediately wearing ForceWorks merch. Wanda wears it. Julia wears a different set of ForceWorks merch. I've never seen the Avengers wear their own merch like this. And you know what? They were merchandising. Tony Stark is a capitalist, and he was gonna make sure that they were repping the team.
so the first three issues were dealing with a scatter that kind of like plotline kind of ends, and then there is, I mean, not really kind of cutting ahead, but this is kind of lets you know where we are in the world. We recently saw Superman, and we're dealing with a plot line that's very similar to that we saw in the film Superman, between two like warring
Hmm.
Eastern European nations, like a civil war, and it's very, very similar to basically themes that we see. I was reading this and I was like, well, this is the mid 90s. Clearly they watch the news and they're talking about the Balkans.
Yeah. Well, so
Um,
how many? I think we should at some point someone should do a count of how many fictional mid-Eastern European nations
where
Marvel made up.
yeah, where are they all going to fit? So issue 4 and 5 deals with this fictional civil war, and like this the fall of this communist country. There's a
Yeah,
character called Black Brigade who's like the bad guy there, and then there's like this other character called Ember who's like this champion of the native people of the country. It's vaguely like stereotypically xenophobic.
it's not great.
Um,
There's a bunch of stuff in these runs that is of it very of its time, shall we say.
I mean,
Um,
people kick up nowadays that Wanda isn't the right skin color, which is obviously, that is a bad thing. But like this in the 90s was so much worse. I mean, we haven't even got into issue 6, which reintroduces us to the Mandarin. Um, Issue 4 and 5, I mean, they're fine. I mean, this kind of arc kind of sets up a later arc that happens that we'll talk about next week. And again, like, I mean, this art is Paul Ryan. Um, and it's fine. Again, it's very, very 90s. It's not with this Force Works kind of issues 1 to 22, it's not really until we get to like the back quarter of this kind of run, like issue 16, 17 through to the end, where like the art style starts to get a bit more recognizably modern. Um,
I really liked though in issue 3 we get this kind of set of full page spreads. Well, Wanda gets one where it kind of explains who she is in context, and like there was some really gorgeous artwork there. There are some really lovely set pieces. Especially there's a my favorite someone one of my favorite parts of the entire run is there's just a entire page where it's Wanda and just the word war crimes like really big on the page, and I honestly will be using that on Twitter as a meme from here on out. That is my yeah. It's in issue 13. It's just a close up of Wanda with war crimes.
Well, I mean, I'll get into. I want to ask a question like when we finish up talking about these 11 issues about Wanda's costuming, but it's just something to worth to keep an eye out before we get onto that.
Her hair
Um,
length is the most inconsistent thing in history.
costume is changing quite a bit, isn't it, through this?
Uh-huh.
Issue 6 reintroduces us to the Mandarin. We kind of get this what 3-part run, two-part run.
Which ties in much more closely to kind of what the TV show was doing. This
Yeah.
feels the most like also Hawkeye, like the Christmas party bit where Hawkeye comes in. Hawkeye becomes this weird specter over the Force Works where they obviously had committed to making US agent. I mean, they have kind of the same personality, and that Hawkeye in the comics, I know it's hard to believe if you're MCU only, is such a dickhead. And so like that's kind of his personality. And so we've got US Agent already doing that. And so they obviously went I would be interested to know why there was this disconnect. And obviously we do get to see War Machine, but War Machine is not a member of this team initially.
No,
He kind of comes in and out because him and Tony are in a fight.
yeah, because War Machine has his own solo run at this point in time, doesn't he?
It's
So
so it's
it's
so interesting though that they have this whole plot line about Wanda being the leader and Tony really struggling to deal with that. And Tony's ego being a plot point, and then just like and they kind of explore it in the show. It's just so bizarre to read this stuff with all these interesting ideas and then none of it be in the TV show that was going on at the same time.
speaking of ForceWorks merch, in issue 4, Wanda is wearing a ForceWorks crop top.
Yes, and Julia's wearing like a matching one.
Yeah,
They're really ugly.
just want to point that out for all the fashionistas out there.
I
Um,
I have written down the absolute serve that is Julia's Christmas outfit because it's the best one. Um,
it is issue 4 that features Beavis and Butthead.
and then yeah, the whole Mandarin thing happens. It's very
90s racism.
and then we got a special interesting.
Christmas issue. I'm gonna go talk about the Mandarin one quickly.
Mhm,
Those two little issues is kind of like the only two issues where I felt like the team was actually kind of working together as a team,
mhm.
and actually felt like I think it was the most engaging arc. I think the two issues where it was the most engaging story where like you understood it was very, very fast paced these issues, and it was the only one where I felt like this little mini arc where I felt like I understood kind of exactly what was going on where it was. The geography of like how these characters were in relation to each other, I think was the best of the 22 issues. I think it was kind of there, especially when it's kind of they're fighting the Mandarin's kind of minions and how they're dealing with them. I think it was the best use of them. And yeah, and then we get into this like Christmas issue, which is very strange.
Apparently, the comic stopped because they were written out of um the TV show, which okay. Um, it yeah, I don't. Apparently, there is also a Iron Man cartoon comic adaptation, which
Okay.
I didn't know about. Maybe I did know, like subliminally. They have a funeral for Simon.
Yeah, we'll get into that's in the next issue, but that's the first that's the second part of the next issue. The first part of the this issue um is um is called Dreamtime, and it deals with an Aboriginal character
Oh God,
from
yeah.
Australia, which I think the writers maybe watched Crocodile Dundee and were just kind of going along with it, and then just didn't. Like I said, as somebody who is very much trying to find their identity within an Aboriginal culture, in my case, it's being Maori. This particular issue really, did not like it. I don't know Dreamguard. I've never heard of him as a character. I'm just kind of gonna go on to his kind of profile here. It was his first appearance, so the issue that we saw him in was his first appearance. And looks like it might be his only appearance.
They
Oh,
all
no.
like act like they know him super well though. They're like, "Oh, hi, Willie," and I'm like, Okay.
Oh, he was in Avengers Assemble issue 1 from July from May 2010. So he has actually show up, but again, like I don't think he's in it at all. Um yeah, very 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 strange kind of use of creating a character there. It's like it's almost like the gang go to Australia, isn't it?
Yes, it
There was a whole thing in the 90s where people thought it was cool to go to Australia. The Simpsons did it for crying out loud.
Rescuers no, Rescuers Down Under was later,
Rescues Down Under did it, yeah.
but it's yeah. A lot of this is very strangely episodal, while also obviously you have to be really aware of a lot of the crossovers that are going on. And the storyline that we lead into in the end, we're not going to cover this episode, which is the crossing, is quite an iconic storyline in both Avengers sense, and we're actually allegedly getting legends based on Wanda's outfit, the different outfit that comes along in the crossing. The random use of Rachel as in the daughter is so perplexing to me. She just like child endangerment is like a huge plot line every once in a while in this.
I think she's only actually useful really in one issue, which we'll get into next week.
And
Um, yeah.
I just really do need to feel like no one in this group knows how to dress for a funeral.
Yeah,
Like Wanda, why are you in that outfit for a funeral?
yeah. Sentry's kind of stood by a tree and just like really, really sad about it. And just like, oh, okay. Um,
Also, they there's a part earlier where they're kind of being like, oh, maybe we can track Simon's signature and like find out what happened. And then Tony randomly goes, no, it's too dangerous. And they just never bring it. Like, they never. Then they're just like, oh, we're having a memorial now.
yeah.
Like he died. It's like we weren't sure where we were going with that. Um, again, I don't know what kind of creative oversight was going on with this comic because it does feel like ideas sometimes get stopped in their tracks when they could be better. And I think there's a really interesting, as much as this run is very chaotic, what I do feel about it is there's a very interesting team dynamic at the core. They do a good job of making every character quite compelling in that, you've got this Wanda's really trying to establish herself as a leader, and Tony is really struggling to let go. Julia is having, I think, the best time out of anybody here. Like, it made me like Julia a lot this run, and then you've got U.S. Agent has this whole conversation with Captain America at the Christmas party. And the Sentry is very much a Vision stand-in here. I feel like they wanted Vision.
I mean
'Cause
I kind of dig Sentry. Again, like he was the most interesting character in the Iron Man TV show, the cartoon, and like his kind of thing here is interesting. And it doesn't. It's unfortunate that it doesn't pay off in the way that I kind of wanted him to in this series. Like, but he is a really really interesting character, and I know what you mean by like he's almost like a Vision stand-in. Um, but yeah, I
it
think
has really good use. They make Wanda very powerful. I think
yeah.
that Andy Lanning and Dan Abnett have a very they do really believe in Wanda's powers. She is kind of, other than Sentry, like they're both, we agreed this about the TV show, they are the two most powerful people on the team. And like, it does, like, I think as a woman, the way Tony treats Wanda and like undermines her in this issue does rub me the wrong way, in that she's clearly, competent, and he just doesn't, like, he made her leader, but he didn't actually want her to lead.
Yeah, it gets worse though, doesn't it? This whole yeah, Tony treating how he treats her. Um, yeah, I mean the last issue we're talking about is issue 11, which is kind of like it reveals itself in the end to be a continuation on from what we had previous, like talking about this Eastern European civil war. Um, and we get the character Ember shows up again, who was meant to be dead. Um, Remember in comic books, if you don't see a body, they're not dead. Um,
That's foreshadowing, by the way.
that is foreshadowing. The recorder is revealed to be a dick. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know. Like again, like we got this kind of Eastern European stereotype fallen communist country thing, which is I don't know. Like this is 94, 95, so the Soviet Union has only just fallen, really.
Yeah.
Um, and again, like the Balkans is in the news quite a lot. Kids, if you don't know about the Balkans War, have a Google. Um, but it's not a great storyline. And even then, that's just like the first part of this two part. I think this one is issue 11 and 12. What did we think of like these 11 issues? Like, it's just over thoughts on like these 11 issues.
What I would say here is if you are looking for strong characterization of Wanda, this is a good run for her in that she is not underutilized within this team. She is her and Julia have distinct personalities, which doesn't sound like it should be an achievement, but is. Also, there's an Agatha cameo at the Christmas party.
Yes, Agatha
Love,
does show up.
and there is there is moments of Wanda and Tony's friendship that I wish that was a little bit stronger. But I do each all the individual relationships within the team are to some extent explored, which is something that is rarer, I think, sometimes now in modern comics. Like in the most recent Avengers run, Thor and Wanda have been on the team for like a year and they barely speak. It's nice that in the 90s they were taking the time to have them have conversations with each other. The actual plot lines are not great and don't feel entirely fully formed, but I wonder how much that was oversight from how much they had to tie into this Iron Man and War Machine and I think that the stories being so heavily linked with each other really does limit them. Also, the racism.
Yeah, the issue linking like the all the issues kind of interlinking each other is a real problem in the last like six issues, I think, like last something like that of this 22 run. Um, yeah, the artwork on these 11 issues is very 90s and it gets very tiresome because like you're just constantly trying to readjust to what's actually going on in the frames because they're very busy. The panels are very busy. And they are, don't get me wrong, they are really quite dynamic and there are some really interesting artwork, but there is a lot going on. A lot going on. Even the
There's some absolutely gorgeous, like I took a bunch of screenshots, kind of as I was going through. There are some there's some absolutely beautiful individual panels sometimes, but it just feels like there's not always consistency between the panels. And again, there are a lot of facial. It's got a very consistent color theme that's very red and blue
yeah.
and yellow, which is it just I missed green when I was reading this. It's not very naturalistic. It's very comic booky. I know that sounds silly, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the type of colors that are being used.
I just really did like how fully formed these characters were, especially like their individual quarters. I have written down here Jack Walker's bedroom has rancid vibes because it is one of the most rancid looking bedrooms I've ever seen. And there is this attention to detail that comes in sometimes, like the little Iron Man plush that Rachel has in her room is in a bunch of different panels, and I do appreciate that consistency and world building that does go into it. And Sentry is a very cool character. I just feel like it's on the edge of something and not quite going over it. Do you know what I mean?
It's not quite fulfilling the potential that we want it to.
And I wonder how much of that was needing to link into the TV show and, needing to link into these other plot lines that were going on with War Machine. I feel because this is the same writing team that brought us the 5 issue Scarlet Witch solo run, which is so good and, you know, is such a good self-contained story. And these writers who have such respect for this character, and they really do her justice. Like Wanda is doing fine in here. I don't usually I miscomplain about Wanda's characterization, but here they bring in Pietro. They mention in passing Magneto. They talk about her kids very briefly. There is a very strong knowledge of her history. And I would say this, like, I'm not an expert on Julia Carpenter, but they really seemed to care about her backstory and her motivations as well. And I know John Walker's got a lot of fans now, so I'm sure they'll be able to tell us if he's done justice here.
I think John Walker is done justice here, if I'm being honest with
The
you.
fringe on his shoulders.
Um, I think John Walker or Jack Daniels at one point he's referred to. I think is probably the my favorite character kind of through the run. As if I'm being honest with you, which is not something I thought I'd hear actually say at the beginning. I think Wanda in this is really interesting to see her be like the leader of a team because I'm not used to seeing that. I'm kind of used to her being like a supporting character. So to have her leading this team is really, really cool to see, even if Tony does actually try to undermine it as much as he possibly can. Um, but we'll get into the Tony Stark of it all next week because it's very Tony Stark heavy next week, with the second kind of back half of this ForceWorks
There's
run.
also some really great Wanda Natasha interaction in the second half of the
Yeah.
ForceWorks run. So if you're a Natasha girl or boy, or they, I would I would hit up the second half of this run. And the crossing storyline is important and is iconic in its own right. My closing thoughts on the first half is that obviously this was a team so limited, I think, by the fact that it was thrown together kind of to sell a TV show that then didn't spotlight these characters. Um, but I do think that there's some really interesting concepts woven into here, and there are some really gorgeous panels which I'll probably put up on TikTok for people to look at. But the war crimes panel is maybe my favorite one, um, because or yeah, one is a little backstory page. Also, I would make a poster of that. I think it's really cool. And the ForceWorks merch, I think they should produce this merch in real life.
Would you wear it?
I would wear the jumper, but maybe not the tank top.
You wouldn't put off the crop top. You don't think you
I
wouldn't wear that?
know, especially not with the weird like underlayers that they're doing. My dream though is that Wanda would have a consistent hair length and they would decide whether or not she has a fringe.
So I think we're kind of that's kind of it for these 11 issues. I mean,
Hmm.
like Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, if I'm being honest about it, I think they were much better just focusing on Wanda in those 5 issues because that was a self-contained story across 5 issues and it works so well. Um, However, I feel like there is a lot going on and there is a lot going on every single issue. And this is a problem in the 90s in my opinion this was a problem in the 90s and like thank God kids that you don't have to do this again week in week out. Um you just get to read about, can you imagine like waiting like like a month or 2 months for the next issue after you just trying to get your head around like you're trying to figure out what's actually going on and you have to wait ages for the next one. Like just to kind of like maybe get a little bit more of an understanding. That's kind of how I feel with these issues. Is like you read an issue and you're like, well, I need to read the next one pretty quickly because hopefully it will actually explain what it was I actually read last time.
Well, I read these once, then I read them again and made notes, and then I went back and I still couldn't keep the villain names straight in my brain. There were just too many. I think that I do prefer the modern style where we very much follow one consistent threat for like a long time, or the very, very episodal nature of like early Avengers where, it is villain of the week, but it's one guy and it's usually a recurring guy and you kind of know what his power set is. But maybe I'm just a simpleton.
Maybe you are a simpleton. I
Now
don't
we've
think you are.
Oh, thanks, Nick. I don't think you're a simpleton either.
Thank you.
Now, we've got a treat for you guys. Me and Nick are going to the cinema a lot at the moment. So we talked about what did we talk about briefly last week? No, what was it?
F1 the movie.
Yes. And this week we're going to briefly discuss the Jurassic World movie. So if you have not seen it, skip to the very end. We'll see you in a minute. Um, but we're going to talk
Jurassic
about Jurassic World.
Jurassic World Rebirth. So this is the fourth movie in the Jurassic World series. This is the seventh movie in the Jurassic Park series. Seven freaking movies, Jesus. Um, what did you think, Hannah?
After the fiasco that was Dominion, it was an improvement. Bearing in mind that, okay, I'm about to say something that's going to make Nick so mad, but my favorite Jurassic movie is Jurassic World, the first one. I love that movie so bad. I watch it all the time. I love it. I love Jurassic Park too, as in the just like the first one, not you know what I mean. I love Jurassic Park and I love Jurassic World. I don't care for the other ones, really. Um, but this was an improvement on Dominion by like such a long way. And the Marvel connection is obviously that Scarlett Johansson is starring in this role, and she does have a Natasha kind of esque-ness to her. It still I didn't love it. It didn't, but I thought it was a fun romp. I think is my. I didn't care about the family at all. I felt like it was. I felt like it was giving Jurassic Park 2, and that it would have benefited from being a lot shorter.
Speaking of Marvel connections, don't forget Mahershala Ali,
Yes.
uh,
Oh,
who, whose official appearance is as a voice over role at the end of Eternals. Um, so what did I think of Jurassic? We watched, so I didn't see Dominion in the cinema. My brother went and saw it and said it was terrible. You shouldn't watch it. And if my brother is telling me that, I'm gonna be like, okay, no, you must be like onto something because like we grew up on the Jurassic Park movies. I still own my VHS. I still have my Velociraptor toy from when I was 3 years old. Um, I'm a big Jurassic Park fan, the first one, and I love Lost World. I have a very, very soft spot for Lost World. Maybe because I was 7 when that movie came out, and it's like ingrained in my brain as a child. But anyway, soft spot for Lost World. Big fan of Jurassic Park. I like Jurassic Park 3. It's 90 minutes long, short and sweet. And contrary to Hannah, I hated Jurassic World. And Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I thought was an improvement because it had an actual, director on it rather than a hack. Um, and Jurassic World Dominion, when I finally got around to watching it, was perhaps one of the worst things I have seen in such a long time. And when I say that Jurassic World Rebirth is an improvement, I mean it is a substantial improvement on the last two movies. This actually, in my opinion, it actually feels like a proper film with actual care taken into what's kind of going on. I will agree with Hannah in that I would agree with you, Hannah, that the family I feel is a maybe like a bit too much of a thing. Maybe it should be cut down to the 90-minute kind of mark, really, if you really want to get kind of purist with it. But I like the fact that the dinosaurs felt like animals again rather than like characters, because at the end of the day they are animals. And I really liked the idea where the film went with this whole like science gone wrong stuff. Like the Jurassic World movies love to do this whole science gone wrong, but it showed it in a way that was like, we've made these creatures that are too perfect for nature, and we're wrong because we made them too perfect. And then this movie is like, he's got a big forehead and is a bit dumb looking, and he's really, really quite scary. I look at that bird thing that's like a weird bird thing with a raptor that kills a raptor. And I'm like, yeah, give me the mutant stuff. This is cool. Of course, scientists are gonna mess up. Of course, a Snickers bar is gonna mess everything up. Um, I don't know. I really like Rebirth a lot. I'm a big fan of Gareth Edwards anyway, so maybe that did a lot of the hard work. I like his visual style. I like kind of how he presents things on screen. So yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Jurassic World Rebirth. I gave it 3.5 stars, which at the end of the day is what I gave F1 the movie after much deliberation.
Hmm.
So yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Jurassic World Rebirth, and if you guys are listening to this and you're thinking, oh, should I go see it in the cinema? I think you should. I think it's well worth seeing in the cinema.
I'm glad that you had a good time.
Thank you.
Next week we will talk about Superman because we have seen that as well,
We
and
have
then
seen that.
um that
The,
that's
the
your
yeah, the Superman thing's gonna be a bit more interesting because I think we're gonna end up talking a lot more about
the
because it's
future of the MCU.
MCU. Yeah, I think a lot of that conversation is going to be in entwined with that. So if you want to hear us talk about that in regard and obviously we're linking that with Superman, go see Superman. I mean, I think that's also what we're saying as well. Go see Superman if you can. If only if you just want to hear us talk about it.
Yeah, we will talk about it next week. We will talk about what I think they did well and what I want the MCU, I think, to take away from Superman. And, then we'll talk about Fantastic Four, which we have not seen yet,
We have not seen yet.
but we will see. Um, so next week we will be discussing the second half of Force Works. We will talk about Superman. We will, you know, talk and do Ironheart spoilers for the
The
ending and
the
also what that
finale, yeah.
means for the future of the MCU. But if you can't wait for more of us, you're just like absolutely hankering for it. You can find me over on TikTok at Into the Wonderverse, on Instagram at the Wonderverse, on Twitter the Wonderverse, and obviously you can find me on YouTube at Into the Wonderverse as well.
And you can find me on socials, the Film Nick. That includes TikTok and Instagram, which I really should be doing more of. I say this every week, and I think I'm doing it now more of as a bit than actually committing to
I do
anything.
think that it's a bit. I've completely given up. Like this, like I've lost all hope.
But you can actually find me doing actual social media stuff on the Film Nick, which is my letterbox profile, which is probably my most kind of active social media thing, that I do because at the end of the day, I like movies.
Yeah, that's why I'm letting Nick have enrichment time at the end of the podcast where I let him talk about movies now. This is he's being enriched.
Thank you.
Um thank you so much to Lily for our gorgeous, gorgeous art. Follow her, give her all the praise. We
Can I
love
can
her.
I can I on the subject of Lily, can I thank Lily for the sticker? The little Spider-Man ducky sticker. Loved it. Absolutely love it.
Yes, if you haven't already purchased Lily's duck superhero stickers, please do. They're so cute. They look perfect in journals and wherever Nick is Nick's making a scrapbook of his cinema tickets allegedly. So we'll see if it pops up in there or not. Another one of Nick's projects, allegedly.
I have many projects.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Thank you so much to Melody Ray Griffiths for the music. And until we see you next time, stay magical.